Commonality, Yu-Gi-Oh's all-commons format, has changed quite a bit since its inception, and has especially over the past year or so, but a lot of fundamental principles have remained the same. Most notably, generic payoffs have been quite mediocre, the main exception being the rank 4 pool as a Swiss Army knife of removal and advantage. So, decks and boards were mostly constrained to specific archetypal typal or level axis payoffs, and maybe a generic link payoff, providing a pop or some protection. But this, and many other paradigms of Yu-Gi-Oh's best budget format, are going to change with the release of the 2026 Legendary Modern decks. This set not only contains 2 archetypes becoming viable as decks in the format, and being incredibly playable out of the box, but also a heap of downshifted main, side, and extra deck staples, and some pretty useful already common reprints. This set adds a lot of new generic back row to the format. Triple Tactics Thrust and Talents give decks options, both going first into monster hand traps or going second. Lightning Storm gives decks a flexible breaker. Pot of Prosperity and Small World give decks more consistency. Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon gives us a new powerful normal trap that's especially strong in Common Charity, given that it gets around any boss monster protection, while also stopping OTK pushes. For a while the best non-engine in CC had been mostly hand traps, but these additions give more answers to hand traps, and also bring other types of non-engine up to the standard of the hand traps in the format, like Ash, the Charmies, and Imperm, which were reprinted in this set. This set also adds a lot to the extra deck, though Mistworm's addition to the format is mostly overshadowed by the presence of Trishula in the same set as a 3-mat level 9. The hand rip and non-targeting non-destructive removal are both quite strong in this format. Cheng Ying offers non-destructive non-targeting removal to decks that can make level 10 synchros, especially if they can banish cards like Tenyu can. There are also some new Earth-specific synchros we'll get to later. Photon Lord is a powerful rank 8 monster negate that has additional text if you play Photon Galaxy, I guess. Probably the best rank 8 in the format, though the competition is mostly Zombie Stein and some Beatsticks. Dugares enables new combo lines and easier OTK lines for a number of rank 4 based decks like Lunalight or Hero. Evil Swarm Exciton Knight is a really powerful board breaking tool to have consistent access to, and Baguska is going to be plan B for a number of decks, and being a beatstick is also relevant. Rank 4s have been the extra deck access with the greatest toolbox of options in Common Charity from its inception. Tornado Dragon, Light Dragon, and Redoer have been defining cards in the format. And even if other ranks, synchro levels, fusion packages, and link monsters have gotten support since then, and Abyss Dweller got banned, that has remained pretty constant, the Ryziel package recently adding to this. And while there are some cards in this set that make that idea less important in deck building, it's still likely true thanks to these. Typhon is a last resort for pretty much any deck not locked out of it, and even Ryziel decks get to summon it off of Plasma Hole, funnily enough, though Vespinate is arguably better there. Control decks can also use it to great effect, being able to out a problematic monster with the non-targeting bounce, and then take control with powerful back row. And being a fiend, it works nicely with some of the Labyrinth support and adjacent strategies. Dark the Dark Charmer is a powerful link 2 for decks with darks against other decks with darks, and decks with a substantial number of darks have been roughly half the field, and that figure likely goes up with this set. It's kind of cracked in dark deck mirror matches, and being able to put more link material onto the board on turn 2 or later is useful for making Borreload, or a card we'll get to. But first, IP Masquerena gets its first common printing. This card enables a lot of interesting play patterns by enabling a link summon on the opponent's turn, and protecting the links it makes is a nice bonus. But what are we summoning off of it? SV Little Knight joins Common Charity, and is probably the most impactful card of the set, being not only an excellent piece of removal on Link Summon, if you use an extra deck monster, but a pretty annoying endboard piece as well, being able to tag 2 monsters out, including one you control, in response to your opponent's card effect. This massively changes deck building and gameplay. We've been down Cataclysmic for any Link monster that vaguely resembles Nightmare Unicorn, Rattan being the classic, but most recently Keel filling similar niches for removal on a Link monster. This card not only makes these cards redundant, but also outclasses a large number of other extra deck removal options that had previously seen play. But the staples aren't the only important additions to the format. The archetypes are all playable to some degree and add options to existing engines. Unlike a lot of reprinted decks, where we basically get what the deck was doing previously, we got enough of the new X-Saber support to push it more towards a new direction. Pelina gets 2 X-Sabers from deck in a way that dodges targeted negation. This can either get you a wide array of synchros and links, or theoretically Aziz monsters, through cards like Bruno, who on summon adds a Saber back row, the best likely being Saber Hole, a summon negate, and can quicksync, and Dark Soul, who can add an X-Saber monster to hand during the end phase of the turn it was sent to the graveyard. The deck has access to some in-archetype payoffs like Hyunlei, who pops up to 3 target back row on synchro summon, or X-Saber Gothams, who contribute your X-Sabers for hand rips. But more importantly, being all Earth monsters gives it access to the newly downshifted Naturia synchros, Beast and Barkion. Beast gives Earth decks a near limitless amount of spell card negates, and Barkion gives them usually enough trap card negates. These can lock out entire strategies, but both have some counterplay. So in the blind, making something like Serene Psychic Sorceress with Bruno and Dark Soul might be better. Getting to set E-Telly to turn on Saber Hole, and Bruno's Quicksync effect, which allows you to trigger Sork's Bounce, while summoning a level 9 synchro that can act as further disruption. And you'll have a follow-up play locked and loaded for next turn. But it's hard to really add much to any of these boards. Sure, you could play a bunch of Fall Troll to make sync 9s or 10s, and hope to high roll a full hand loop. But that gives you less space for non-engine, won't even work that often, and pretty much dies to a Mulch army. X-Saber is surprisingly decent, but not really all that strong. Decks like Naturia are better at capitalizing on the new Earth synchros.
Now! Murakumo, activate!
Mitsurugi is the archetype from the set that had been closest to being playable in Common Charity already, being a solid engine prior to the banning of King of the Feral Imps. These new additions give the deck both a strong payoff in Murakumo and a number of new tools to get to it. However, it didn't get Habakiri, or Futsu for that matter, so it's more similar to Wave 1 Mitsurugi, needing 2 card combos to really accomplish much immediately. And lacking a lot of the supporting cast that let Wave 1 Mitsu top in advance, though it gained some newer support, and the competition is still less strong in Common Charity than it was in advance. The deck is pretty playable pure, having access to a Raigeki on the opponent's turn, negation, destruction, and the rank 4 pool is pretty strong, but you can play additional packages and engines in it as well. Ryzeal offers a pretty consistent fallback, though Duo Drive isn't quite as synergistic as it is with Lunalights. Ritual strategies can work pretty well, though you can only tribute reptiles with either of the ritual spells, so with KFI banned, and no generic reptile extra deck monster with levels, you're probably going to need that engine to ritual summon outside the archetype, or search both pieces. Megalith notably can do the former, and can recur Murakumo to get most of both boards from a number of 2-card combos. The more interesting lines are with other reptile support. There's a Ragnarika pile that has been iterated upon since the 2025 Megaton. An Ogdoadic Daybreak turns a summoned Murakumo into 4 link material and a Mitsurugi card search, which goes a long way to making the Ragnarika length. If you open a 2-card combo, say Manju and Murakumo, you can, normal Manju, add Mitsurugi Ritual, which can ritual summon the Murakumo, sending Nightsword Serpent and Noya, the Ogdoadic Remnant. Nightsword Serpent summons itself, allowing you to overlay it and Manju for Dugares, which can special summon the Noya, which adds Daybreak. Link Dugares and Noya for Lizardos, then activate Daybreak, tributing the Murakumo, summoning 4 tokens, and triggering Murakumo to add prayers and summon itself back. Lizardos can banish the Nightsword Serpent to draw a card. Link Lizardos and a token for Ragnarika Mantis Monk, who can search Hunting Dance by banishing the 2 reptiles in graveyard. Daybreak can shuffle back one of our banished reptiles in order to send Saji. Link Mantis Monk and a token for Chain Coils. Link Chain Coils and a token for Stag Sovereign. Prayers tribute the last token, search like Kusanagi, take 800, revive Saji, search Grade Purification. Mantis Monk, shuffle Saji to revive. Chain Coils, shuffle Mantis Monk to revive. Set your search to back row and pass on Pop 2 monsters, a negate that triggers a search and subsequent Raigeki, the hand rip or negate from Murakumo, and Chain Coils' Floodgate effect, a draw, and a Mitsurugi name as follow-up. And though you're locked out of your next main phase 1, if you use the Murakumo search on prayers, you can still add to your board before going to your battle phase, though the monsters summoned won't be able to attack directly. You can get to similar end boards from other starters like Aramasa, but if you've gone through Saji, or you aren't running Purification, you probably just send Kusanagi and add back prayers when you summon it. But if you go through prayers, or you roll open Ritual plus Murakumo and don't have a normal summonable level 4, your board will be a little weaker. Mitsurugi seems like a powerful archetype in common charity, but as an A+B deck, it does have some weaknesses compared to other similar top decks. It doesn't have a one-card combo with immediate game impact like Lunalight does, nor as good of an ability to convert a bunch of column A into a column B as that deck has. It doesn't have as strong of a bridge into it as Megalith has, or the ability to turn an A and some amount of non-engine into combo. But the deck has some unique strengths as well. Murakumo is incredible at simplifying game states, and then profiting from a simplified game state. Sky Striker is a powerful archetype with a long history in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! TOS format was an acclaimed era in Advanced, and while I would describe common charity's play patterns and recently the power level as being TOS adjacent, and while we've had decks with similar payoffs for gameplay, and we've had a top deck from this format that's missing one critical piece here in Salamangreat, we're now not only getting all of the core striker cards from that era, with all but the Hornet Drones being at 3, but also 3 important pieces of modern support for the archetype, making it hard to deny that the format is more powerful than TOS now. The main things we're missing from that era of Striker are Mystic Mine, which, good riddance, and a Link OTK tool, but as we'll see, the deck has access to some other tools for closing out games. So, how does Striker play in common charity? As a pure deck, it's a spell-based control deck with some tempo elements. Basically the closest Yu-Gi-Oh! Has come to Legacy Delver. Play efficient interaction, advantage generating spells, and some pesky evasive threats. But in classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Fashion, many of these roles are accomplished by the deck's extra deck toolbox. The Link one's Kagari, who recurs an archetypal spell, Hayate, who attacks directly and bins a striker card, and Shizuku, who adds a spell in end phase. Let you turn your archetypal monsters, Rei, who revives herself if your Sky Striker Link in the EMZ gets removed, and can quick tag into one of the links, and Rose, who revives herself if you out your opponent's monster in the EMZ, and negates a monster when it does so. Or the token from Hornet Drones into a bunch of advantage. You can use 2 of these or raise tag to make 0, which can use its 1 effect per turn to add a Sky Striker spell from deck or yard on summon, improving the deck's turn 1 and its grinding potential, or tag into Rei and Rose from deck or yard and potentially pop a card, which is strong disruption or a way to make rank 4s. The Sky Striker spells themselves also offer interaction and advantage. The normal and quick phase spells improve if you have 3 spells in your yard, but require you to control no monsters in your main monster zone, including Engage, which searches and gains the ability to draw a card, and Widow Anchor, which negates and potentially steals a monster for a turn. Area 0 and Multi-Roll allow the deck to clear up its zones, the latter giving your spells split second, and letting the deck reset striker spells up to the number you used while it was on the field during each end phase, giving you really strong follow-up turns. But because the set cards get banished when they leave the field, you do still need to end the game sometime. Historically, striker decks would close the game out with a big link monster, but we don't really have a great candidate for that purpose in common charity. But there are some other ways for Striker to end duels thanks to some of its more recent support that was downshifted. 0 tagging into 2 level 4 warriors enables Magnum Excalibur, which can attack for 4k, which can be useful for attacking over monsters, but requires some other monsters to attack to actually finish the game. But if you try to go wide, you turn off the spells, so that might not be ideal. Linkage can also help with ending games, letting you send a card to summon a Striker Link to the EMZ. It even makes Rei a 1-card combo for over 8k damage once you've cleared your opponent's board. Normal summon Rei, go to battle phase, attack for 1500, tag out Rei for 0, add Linkage, attack for 2k, activate Linkage, sending 0 and summoning Kagari, boosted due to the Light and Dark Engrave, Kagari, add back Linkage, Kagari attack for at least 2500, activate Linkage again for a different Link 1, attack for 2500 again, brings the total damage to 8500. But Linkage can also be used as a backup starter if you're playing pure Striker, or a way to tag Shizuku out for Ink 0 after using her effect in end phase. Striker is also incredibly playable as an engine, Engage being able to convert into 2 bodies and potentially a draw or 2 before a normal summon is really strong. For Hire can use those bodies to make Keel, who can search the new field spell, and get to the rest of the engine from there. Decks with a rank 4 starter can use 0's tag out effect, and you can even get to a rank 4 and a body if you're willing to use your normal summon. But even if Striker doesn't bridge directly into whatever you're doing, playing a Striker package has its benefits, letting you end on Lemnis Gate and 0, which represents a bounce, a pop, recurring engage, and Zeke's temporary banish, all from 1 card, and you potentially drew a card if you activated a setup spell before engaging the Striker engine. You can even draw 3 off of Engage in your normal summon if you have 3 spells in grave first. Ideally, this will allow you to draw another Engage and thin your deck even further. Decks with Lights and or Darks can theoretically bridge into Sky Striker with Azalea, who can also act as removal, but only does both if you have Spell Mastery, though you will have to be able to attack with Hayate to profitably bridge, because you can only summon 1 Azalea per turn. I expect Sky Striker to have a massive impact in the landscape of Common Charity, but I don't expect it to completely dominate it. There are a number of cards that effectively counter the strategy. Draw makes Engage a liability, but it is semi-limited. Retaliating C stops a lot of the deck's combos and recursion, and though there are outs to it in Engine, you do lose a lot of your end board, especially if they float into something like Naturia Mole Cricket. And speaking of Naturia, Nat Beast is quite hard for the deck to deal with, unless you draw some specific non-engine or Ray. The deck also wants you to play spell-based non-engine, so decks like Melodious could capitalize on the reduced hand trap counts to set up its lock. Common Charity continues to be a budget format with interactive gameplay. Even if I am underestimating how strong Sky Striker may end up being, and it is undisputably the best thing to be doing in the format, there are still interesting decisions in deck building and gameplay, but I don't see that being the case. Mitsurugi, Megalith, Lunalite, and Melodious all seem strong even in the face of Sky Striker. And there may even be some builds I haven't even considered that end up being strong in this metagame. We're hosting a tournament on the Common Charity Discord with these new cards. There should still be some time to sign up when this video drops if I got my act together. The Discord is the best place to find Common Charity deck lists, discussion, and deck building advice, and a welcoming community as well. Next time I'll be discussing building a Common Charity cube, and then most likely back to semi-regular set reviews when TextNet's Blazing Dominion drops. So subscribe for those and share this to help spread the commonist agenda.